And our gospel reading, our sermon text this morning is from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 through 14. This is the beginning of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, what do you think of when you hear the word blessed? Maybe wonderful friends or family that you have in your life, or food that you're able to put on the table because of a job you had or have that provides resources for you. Sometimes we hear this phrase, "We are blessed to be a blessing." And yes, this is absolutely true. Next week, we will gather socks and clothing to give to Audubon Elementary. We are blessed with clothes so that we can give to those who do not have enough clothes. Simple formula, right? Or is it? We think that to be blessed is to have or possess something, a relationship or materials, and that's only partly true. Jesus fills out the rest of the meaning of this word in his Sermon on the Mount, specifically in this section that we know as the Beatitudes. And as per usual, Jesus' understanding of blessed might disrupt our common understanding or our typical worldly understanding. Some people think that Jesus is preaching only to his disciples in this sermon because much of the Sermon on the Mount reads like a handbook for close Jesus followers. In other words, this is how you worship and how you live when you are a disciple of Jesus. However, at close read, we see this. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain. And after he sat down, his disciples came to him. So this makes me think that there were people who were eager to hear Jesus preach and were likely listening in to whatever Jesus had to say, not only to the 12, but to the many who were gathered there. I'm guessing that Jesus meant for all who wanted to be there to be there. If that's the case, then we can be fairly sure that the people who heard Jesus talk about being blessed were people who fell into these first categories that Jesus names: poor in spirit or downtrodden, grieving ones, humble and hungry. We know that the wealthy and the well were not the ones who followed Jesus around and listened to what he had to say. It was those people in these named in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who are humble. And Jesus says that these ones are the blessed ones. What does he mean? Scholar Dale Bruner suggests that when people are at their lowest in the valley, this is when they know how much they need God's saving love through Jesus. When people have abundant material provision with very little difficulty in their life, it's a little more difficult to be aware of what we need. And it's a little easier to think that somehow we have earned everything that we have. When we know our need for salvation, we are close to God. And when we are close to God, we are blessed. I feel challenged by that truth. Since our kids have changed schools to attend neighborhood public schools just this year, we walk them to the bus every day. And I know more about my neighbors from the past 6 weeks of school than I do from the 4 years of living in our house. It's been really cool. Recently, we've gotten to know a refugee family who speak almost no English, and we communicate through translation apps on our phones. That's an adventure. They have very little compared to what we have, and yet I would say they are blessed. They are grateful to have one another and grateful for small provisions, or what we might think of as small provisions. Twice this week, my schedule has been disrupted by this beautiful family. Both times, I was glad that it did. Instead of getting to work here on time on Tuesday, I ended up in a very long conversation with them about a problem they were having. And on Friday, when I had sat down to finish this sermon, I heard the doorbell ring and Matt said, "They're here." And this woman and her 5 boys showed up at our house and we played in the backyard. Yesterday, we were at the park together. I feel blessed by these disruptions, by these new friends. They are challenging my understanding of what it means to have. So those first few blessings that Jesus names are about need. When people are in need spiritually or materially or emotionally. These last few blessings describe how God blesses us when we treat others well, when we are merciful and show compassion, when we are pure in our intentions, and when we are peacemakers. Jesus says that we are salt and light. If salt is not paired with something like food, it has no use. Likewise, if a Christian is not serving others, we have lost our way. We are to bring flavor and preservation to those God places in our midst. God made us to love one another, to love those in need, to those who are blessed. And we are light. Light shows the way. We are to be encouraged that when we bless others with our actions, we are shining the light of Christ and bringing hope. Jesus also says that the persecuted are blessed, for their reward is in heaven. Most of us will not experience violent persecution in our lives, but millions of Christians have and do today around the world. And in smaller ways, sometimes when Christians show mercy to an unlikely neighbor, they may get talked about behind their backs. And when this happens, we remember the larger picture, as Jesus says, that the reward is in heaven and that all things will be well. This is our resurrection hope. But that's not the timing that we like, is it? So what do we do with all of this? We read the Beatitudes and we understand that our need and the needs of others, that in those needs, Jesus is near. And when Jesus is near, we are blessed. We understand when we read this text that when we treat those in need with compassion and seek to be a reconciling force in the world, we will be blessed. And we will know the nearness of Jesus. So in other words, if you have need, you are blessed. If you give to those in need, you are blessed. We read and we understand, but what do we do? A pastor I worked for years ago, almost 20 years ago now, challenged our congregation to consider this question. What is Jesus up to, and how can I be a part of it? Jesus is pretty clear in the Gospels. He shows up among the people who have the greatest need and are the most marginalized. And this Sermon on the Mount is clear. Those in need and those serving those in need are blessed because they are near to what Jesus is up to. So what is Jesus up to? Look for the need. If there is someone in pain or without food, grieving or facing uncertainty, ask Jesus how you can come alongside and show mercy. Be a reminder to the world that Christians understand the deeper meaning of being blessed, that it's not just a word that we write on our walls, but it is the knowledge that the love of Christ, that we know the love of Christ and are shining his light through the way we pay attention and show up. I wonder if you are hearing Jesus' words in Matthew 5 today and it strikes you that maybe you're the person poor in spirit or the person mourning. Hear the good news. Jesus is for you and Jesus is with you. I encourage you to speak to the Christians in your community who love you and also are for you. I am available to talk to have a visit with. And everyone here in this congregation knows how to show love. You are not alone. We have a Christmas cactus at our home. Does anybody have Christmas cacti? Yeah. Someone gave it to us last year when Matt's mom entered hospice care in early December. Because of the way Christmas cactuses work, it bloomed almost immediately. In our grief, a kind gift of new life brightened our home during the darkest nights of the year. The Christmas cactus, we know, only blooms for a few weeks a year, and there are long months when it seems to have no color to offer at all. And then suddenly, a pink or red or white bud shows up and it quickly grows. Blessed are those who are in a season with no color, who wonder when the bloom or the light will come in. And blessed are those who can give color and light to the one in need, because they know what it is like to grieve. Christians, we are meant to observe and feel the needs of others. May Jesus help us to see and to act. We are also meant to receive when we are in need. May Jesus help us accept gifts of mercy and love. Amen.